All righty, we're all set to go.
Okay, gentlemen, we'll call the meeting to order of the Economic Development Commission, Tuesday, the 15th, 5:30. Welcome. Thank you guys for attending. That's our call to order. Item 2 on the agenda is audience of citizens. Chris, I don't know if we have anyone who's joining us or not, or somebody might be sitting with you that wants to speak.
No, sir, we have no audience of citizens tonight.
All right, so let's roll right on to 3 November minutes for the November meeting that should have been emailed to you, gentlemen, and hopefully everyone had a chance to take a peek at them. And if you don't have any questions, we'd be looking for a motion and a second to approve the November minutes. And yeah, we had everyone there, so we do have enough people here to approve them.
Motion to approve.
I'll
Okay,
second
Mr.
that motion.
All right, second by Mr. Bostrom. Any further discussion? All those in favor say, any further discussion, gentlemen?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, motion passes. Item 4 on the agenda is facade improvements abatement. Chris, I'll let you roll with number 4.
Thank you. Call in, is that Chris Capola?
I don't know yet.
It is, okay, awesome. So we just did the minutes. If you continue past the minutes, Newport has come in to ask for an extension. Newport had received about $30,000 plus or minus, actually I can give you the exact number. $36,000 in matching grants from us. They were going to be fixing the front stairs, doing 2 patios. They did the one patio, which is furthest from Town Hall at the Tyvek building across from the tavern. They completed that part. They're not yet worked on the other piece, which is going to be the patio between the rail and the building. They're asking for an extension. Right now they're working with tenants, but also due to the winter, they don't want to put down the patio. So essentially this is right in line with what we've done already. They're requesting a 120-day extension from today for the project.
Chris, did their time limit already expire for the first go around?
I believe it is just about to expire. It's in the next probably 14 to 30 days. So my recommendation
So I
is
guess
Yep.
my question is, should we give them 120 days from when it expires or from today?
let's do it as of today.
I have a question.
No, it looks like it did in fact expire. So we'll do it as of
Okay,
today.
it did expire. Okay.
The weather coming up as far as winter, is that going to affect what they're going to look to complete?
I think it will to some degree, but they said that their hope was once we get into the beginning of next year, hopefully March or so, they should be able to get in and do the work. I just know right now the intent was not to do it immediately with the cold, but I think once it starts warming up a little bit, March, April, we should be in good stead. Let's see here, so
Okay, so
January, February, March,
that's
April.
4
Yeah, so we would
months.
we would put them into basically to tax day, so April 15th, 2021 with the extension.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. That should work for them.
Okay, so then if there's no further questions, Chris, we're allowed to do this extension. We've done it for others in the past.
Yes, we have.
Okay, so then I guess we'd be looking for a motion to give them an extension on their letter that we have in our package.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend Newport Realty Group's financial for 120 days.
Second somewhere, please.
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Chassis is going to second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Okay.
Alrighty. Second one here, which is tax abatement language. I am going to attempt to do something here and try to share my screen here so everybody can see what I am. There we go. All righty. So what we are looking at is the proposed language changes for the tax abatement policy. We have been looking at it. We put this in place for Mr. Orsini as well as our folks by the train station. The concern is that we essentially put this in place to spur additional development. We've been blessed for the fact that we're getting both residential and commercial for both Orsini's project and by the train station. The concern at this point is, are we going to be incentivizing residential development with little or no commercial at this point? I think that the intention was to get the good development. I think moving forward, the concern is whether or not we're going to get hundreds of units of apartments and very little commercial. So that was the reason why Jim Mahoney and myself had kind of looked at this, made a couple tweaks to the language. What would happen is it would take out mixed use as eligible, but it would also leave in the 10 years. So if someone came in with a manufacturing or distribution and hit that $12.5 million, they still would be able to get it. The other piece, and it was just mentioned by Commissioner Bostrom, was if we wanted to add in the language of contractors, clean contractors, because what we've done is we've added them into all of our industrial zones, and it's been an area of great growth. I think if you looked at who we have brought in, folks buying, a couple folks that are actually looking to build right now, it's a place I think we definitely should consider having in here, and it's not currently in the language. And then
Can you identify a little more what clean contractors are? So
sure, clean
that's going to
contractors
be a
are
subject coming up.
sure no. Clean contractors are HVAC, plumbing, electrical, folks that normally are going to have a building, but they're not going to have piles of stuff outside. So it's not going to be your landscaper, folks like that. It's really folks, a majority of what they're going to have is either going to be in the building or actually on a vehicle. If you look at the different companies we have, many of them have basically everything all set to go on one of the heavy duty trucks.
Chris, one question that I have.
Sure.
Do we have any way to police this? Once we allow this gentleman to come in or the contractors to come in, say things go towards the worst as far as maintaining their properties. Is there a way to enforce their I don't want to use the word cleanliness, but their organization as far as keeping it looking neat and how we want it as far as the town is concerned?
There is. That's actually one of the things that we're going to talk about in the planning and zoning piece, because I think it is important, particularly if we're talking about the turnpike. And it's more based upon the language of what we have in place, which, again, I'd like to talk about a little more when we get to the planning and zoning part, number 5, because I think it is vital in there to really talk about what should be there. Because you're right, it is a big issue. We have a couple right now which have made the turnpike look less than appealing for contractors.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would say that while we do have ordinances in place, we have problems right now that we can't control or that we struggle to control and clean up. So we have to be careful we don't open the door for an opportunity for something like that to happen. But we have places all over town where the places are is not the way it's supposed to be, and it just sits there. And while there are ordinances and rules at town hall and in zoning, these things just fester. It's rare where we can get them to clean their places up. We can make a list right now on my hand. I can label places right now. I think we all can.
Yeah.
So I think your point's well taken, Keith. Got to be very careful about that.
Yep.
Because what's the definition of clean, really?
True.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we can look at if when we're looking down in contractors in the BT 1 and 2. If that's something we want to move forward with, we should work to find language that we can be comfortable with that will give us the opportunity to basically say, no, you don't fit in for this reason, which I think would be the way to go.
Well, it's not just a matter of fitting in, it's a matter if they have fit in and then they lack the appearance that we're looking for as far as just unregistered vehicles and materials laying around and so forth like that. I think that's an important thing.
Yep. The other piece of this is with the abatements at the very bottom here, the blue screen I have up here is essentially saying that we can take applications for a certain amount of time. And in order to be eligible, they must have all permits and approvals in place from 1 year, start construction within 2 years. So essentially so if someone comes in and says, you know what, I want to take advantage of it now before it changes. For instance, the project coming up with the 200 plus units, if they don't hit the 2-year mark on starting construction, they will not be able to get any tax abatements. So that also puts in the fact that we're pushing them to say, look, you need to get this done. You can't string us out for years and years and years on your project.
Can they file for extensions, Chris, for this?
At this point, no. At this point, this is what we're planning on having with no extensions. And so essentially what it would be is if you're currently in the mix and you're discussing the project with us and this tax abatement, you can apply, but you need to hit these milestones of approval within a year, construction of both the commercial and residential 2 years, which again was important because I know our discussion before was, are we going to get 200 units of housing and no commercial? And I know this commission was very, very concerned about that with this project that's coming through the pipeline, going by the south of Blue Lobster.
I think we also talked about allowing the tax abatement to go forward. Okay, let's say if the commercial was stalled and it took 3 years or 4 years for the commercial to be developed. At that point, we could let the tax abatement kick in. So the tax abatement would be hovering over them, but it wouldn't start until the commercial was completed.
That's the other option that we have, which is to basically put it that way. And I think that would be more in the language of the agreement itself, because there actually is an agreement in place between the developer and the town, which essentially says that you will do X, we will do Y. And I think that's important to be in the language.
No, Chris,
It would kind of be an incentive for them to push their commercial side. Even if it did take, a few years for that abatement to kick in, that would be to their benefit to try to move that commercial forward.
Agreed. And I mean, part of this too is Metro Realty Group. They came through. They ended up getting approved for 88 units just down from the pole yard on Eversource on Deming, and they didn't come in for a nickel. They never even came in for any abatements. So that also tells us that for just residential, us incentivizing it probably is not really what needs to be done for just the residential if we're getting only residential.
now, Chris, with that 2-year time frame, if there's a tax increase, a mill rate increase, or revaluation, are they locked into the first 2 years or the next 2 years, or doesn't it matter?
They'd be basically what happened is we sign the agreement, and then usually whatever is on the tax rolls as of October 1st, then basically the clock stops. There's the number for the next July 1 tax bill. So it would actually be seen on the next July 1 tax bill. So essentially it's when the agreement is signed with them, and then from there that next October and then July, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Chris, is there an urgency to approve this at this meeting?
We were looking to bring this forward sometime in January, so we definitely can discuss this at the January meeting. That's not a problem.
The only reason I say, Chris, is because I am hearing a bunch of questions and comments, and I'm not sure that even myself, based on what I'm hearing from everyone else, I'm sort of thinking our next meeting would be January 4th. Maybe give the group a little bit more time just to review it. And then at the January 4th, if there are some other modifications that the commissioners want, we could tweak it and then vote on it in January at the 4th. That would be early enough in the month, I hope you tell me, for you to pitch it to whatever other group you need to, Chris. But I don't know how the rest of the commissioners feel about it. But I'm hearing a lot of questions and some concerns and some things that maybe aren't quite settled yet.
No, I think that makes perfect sense.
But I don't know what the other commissioners think, if they're okay with that or not.
That's fine. If there's no one pushing us to get it done right now, it allows us to absorb this a little more.
Yeah, I think we just rather, we're only talking a couple weeks till, 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Roughly till
Nothing.
till the next meeting, and nothing's really going to go down. So I'd rather sort of even if we change a couple little words here or there just to fine tune it. Keith had some questions, Ed did too. There were some good comments there. So maybe if it's okay with everybody, we just hold off till our January 4th meeting and then we do something then with it, Chris.
Perfect.
How do we compare with the towns around us, Chris, as far as the tax abatement is concerned?
Our tax abatement is aggressive compared to most towns. The only one that I think is more aggressive than us is the town of Cromwell. Cromwell has done a 7-year 100% tax abatement, which they had a building built and it sat there vacant for years. They got nothing. In my opinion, you incentivize the construction, but it's got to go down so that the town sees a greater benefit. From what they're doing, there's zero benefit, because even if you give 100% tax abatement and you need to go there for fire or police, first phone call, you're losing money. So I think that is, my own opinion, it's too much. You're giving away absolutely everything, which is not what we're here to do.
Right.
Agreed. Can I chip in?
Sure.
The abatement and all, I mean, I agree, we have to be competitive. And I agree with what Keith's comment was last week, which is you don't want to give away the farm either. But one of the questions that I have is, with this abatement, as much as it makes sense to all of us, Chris, do we have a feel on the town council or the board of finance? I mean, is this going to end up putting us in a pickle? Are these guys on board with this kind of stuff? Are they open and receptive to these things, or are they going to come back and, try to make us look like bad guys that we're giving it all away?
No, with what we're doing here, we're actually going backward. We're actually giving less because we're taking away the residential. And if you look at the 10-year, we've actually knocked the numbers down over the 10 years. So this actually puts the town in a better position. And I think taking out the residential will probably make both the council and especially Board of Finance happy, because there'll be no abatements on what usually is going to be the bigger piece, because the residential dollars and cents. If you look at Orsini's project, the residential was about an $8 million value. The commercial was about $2 million. So you're talking about quite a bit more. So I think this will be well received. And again, if we decide to add the contractors, which in my opinion makes sense, especially if looking at the nature of our business community, I think that would also provide an opportunity to say, look, we're getting other people. We want these guys because, one, they're here, and two, they want to come here.
Right. Okay.
I guess if there's no further discussion on that, we'll hold that off till January, and whatever questions you gentlemen come up with between now and then, you can kick it to Chris and we'll talk about it in January. And hopefully on the 4th, we can approve this, Chris.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table it.
Can I ask a question?
All right, we have a second somewhere.
I'll second it.
All right, Mr. Cobley, further discussion? All those in favor of tabling second item there, tax abatement, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain, motion passes. Okay, Chris, we're on 5, planning and zoning, sir.
Sure, thank you.
Richard, were
Yes,
you trying to say something before?
Well, then I just want to,
I think your speaker's cutting in and out.
I'm having a hard time keeping up. My speaker?
Check my.
Yeah.
Oh, now. Is it good? Can you hear me?
Mm-mm.
No.
Can you hear me? All right.
You,
I passed.
you might be able to just do the dial-in number.
Go back out and come back in. All right, we're fine. We're fine. Keep going.
Okay. The Berlin Turnpike Development Zone, changes looking to be made here. One project's looking to come in, which is around the ABC Supply building, essentially on the Turnpike. The way that this looks like it's coming in is they want to construct around an existing commercial instead of creating new commercial. So what this language is saying is that essentially you must bring in new commercial instead of being able to just go forward with what is existing there. Again, I'm looking, this likely will be also a January 4th discussion, but essentially just quickly through here, we're looking to make it new, and then 25% of the floor area of the overall development must be commercial. Then as we go down, the other piece is if you have the 10 acres, may be able to subdivide a portion of it. This might be in a case where you have a development that may be two different pieces, which the residential is one, the commercial is the other. And this is something that was brought to our attention. I don't really have any particular thoughts on this. I think if we're getting what we are hoping, which is the residential and the commercial, I don't think it's a huge thing, but it's something also to kind of think about over the next month or so as you look at the language. So if you go to 10B, again, it says that minimum of 25% of the floor area must be commercial, and then existing commercial can be retained if they fit the overall attractiveness and style of the development. And then D, new commercial buildings must be 25% of the use must be constructed and have a CO before a CO can be put in place for any residential uses. And this, Ed, I think will go into what you were saying, which is the fact that we will get the commercial first by the way this is written. Otherwise, you will not get a CO for the residential. And again, this is also going to be looked at in the January meetings. It's not going to be looked at in December for planning and zoning, sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to get a printout of this. You know, I know we briefly discussed it last Thursday when we attempted to have a meeting. I gave you my views. I don't know if you want me to go over them. The only thing I'm worried about on this, commissioners, of it actually, the abuse that could easily happen. It's not only going to affect the marketability of what's out there today, but what's going to happen in the future. I mean, we could really garbage up the turnpike that much more. We briefly talked about what's being abused right now, and I'm sure we're all familiar with it. Trucks that are parked right up to the road. You know, what I'm always worried about when someone said, well, this is a matter of interpretation. So in one case, we have home improvement. Well, does a roofing contractor come under home improvement with all his trucks and trailers that for removing the shingles, and it's all sitting out in front, not far off the turnpike, the road itself? It looks like hell. So I think this could work. but we have to make sure that it's worded properly. There are certain parcels out there that this would work. I was thinking of having at least 4 acres. It had to be fenced in the front.
Eddie,
some
Eddie,
type of
are you
landscaping.
Eddie? Are you in the BTD zone or are you on the contractors?
I am on the contractor.
Okay, well, gotcha. Okay, no, I wasn't sure if we'd close up the discussion on the BTD. That's why I was wondering if you're
Oh,
still
I'm
on that one.
sorry.
No, that's okay. Not a problem. Yeah, if we're done with the BTD discussion, it's fine. We can do that. I just don't want to get too much going at once.
Okay, my mistake.
No, that's okay. So would we like to kind of think about the BTD and look at it again in January as it's just in front of you? Same thing. I can get a hard copy to everybody.
Yeah, I need a hard copy.
You got it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Ed. I'm sorry. You were saying about the contractors.
Yeah, that's why I got confused in between this BTD zone
That's okay.
and the contractors allowed in the BT1, BT2. All right, I just briefly, went up and down the turnpike and looked for different parcels that could possibly be developed, let's call it in good taste, and having those type of contractors, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, located on the turnpike, but it would have to be buffered from the visibility of the turnpike. That part could easily work. Checkered flag raceway, that's a type that could work. You got 8 acres south of Orchard Road. Okay, it might even be bigger than 8 acres. That's a prime piece for this type of development. That could work out very well there. There's some acreage on the Meriden line. The topography is a little tough there, but that's possible. I did mention to Chris about Indian Head, DiMartino's building, but that's already in zone industrial, so that wouldn't count. You got 4 acres just north of Days Inn. That parcel could work, but it's the way the buildings were probably laid out. If the buildings were put to the front of the property and the trucks would be on the opposite side. So actually, in that sense, the buildings would buffer any trucks and so forth. So that would just be a certain layout that you'd probably want to look at. All this should come under special permit, and it should be 4 usable acres, because we do have cases out there that you have like 7 acres and 2 are usable, and something like that just wouldn't work. Chris mentioned about the building next to Mickey Finn's on that same site. It's been sitting for years. It's always been spray painted, and it's we just love to find a use for it. But again, it depends on how we put together the wording on this. That's not 4 acres, but that possibly could still work. So that's all going to be part of our discussion.
Yep. And Eddie, I did the same thing, and actually, I hopefully if you guys can see it, I just shared a screen. I found 13 properties that could have potential. Basically started from one end and went down. It's not all encompassing by any means, but basically shows a number of different things that are there. A couple existing buildings, a couple are vacant lots. And so basically, when you mention your 4 acres, Eddie, I only see one on here that would fit the 4 acres. That would be my only concern.
Yeah. Obviously, it's all up for discussion.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, just kind of what's here. So The one you mentioned next to Mickey Finn, that's the forklift building. The garage building by Duncan, everybody knows that one. There's actually about just about an acre, literally just north of Eddie's property, where the hot dog stand was. Johnson's Motel, which is right next to Barrel and Vine. 1897, those are the property that has the Rizzo trucks at the moment. Of course, the driving range that Budney bought. The 7 acres, which Eddie had mentioned. There's a building that you wouldn't even know it's there, right next to Safari Golf. It's 2,000 square feet. It's not visible from the road. The 3.7 acres just south of the Best Western on that same side. 2620 Berlin Turnpike, and then 2700 Berlin Turnpike. It's a small building almost down where Klepacki's building the new apartments. So there is a handful here that do have possibilities. Again, we can take a look at it, but I think there are opportunities here if we can put language together that would make sense, but also be protective of what we want to see. I know what I can do is I can get some language to everybody on kind of kick some thoughts around, and at the next meeting we can discuss it a little further. The good news is this is not moving immediately by any means. This is something where if we do this, we want to make sure that we put some things in place that will give the commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, and the Planning and Zoning Office some teeth to make sure people are doing what we want to see on the turnpike and to keep them from doing the things we don't.
Just explain to me how Johnson's Motel would work. Is there a property behind that building? And is there access to it?
If somebody demolished the building, it would be a rebuild from scratch.
Oh, I see. Okay. And how big is that piece?
Just under 2
Oh.
acres.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's a good size lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And the reason I mentioned too is it happens to be on the market right now, so that's why it came to mind as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and
The way this is designed, that's the whole thing of this.
Yep.
The design and the layout of the site is the secret to this.
Yeah, I think this is another issue where we got to delay till January because, like you said, Ed, and others have said, we don't want to get things on the turnpike that we don't want because for many years we've had a lot of things on the turnpike that we didn't want, and we're finally starting to turn that corner now. So we got to get it right this time.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and a couple of things that came to mind for me. Again, we can play with the language, but I mean, the word design, because of the look of what it is, whether it's the 4 feet of brick going up, showroom. I think a showroom, I think, should be a necessity because if we're looking at having something on the turnpike, you want it to be at least something somebody can go in and look at, not just a guy who's constructing stuff. Again, to be determined, but I think if you have that too, there's also, I think if you look at both Mid-State and you look at Modern Plumbing is an extreme example, but the business, they're both in the similar business, which is improvement contracting, but they have the area where you can go in and see their products on display, which I think is important because that's kind of the look that we would like to see if and when this happens on the turnpike.
And we tap our, is it Jakunski or who's the architect that we have that does all the renderings for our facades?
Brian Humes.
Brian Humes, okay.
Yep.
So here's a question. We see, I hear what, what you're saying as far as the vision of it, the type of properties. I certainly hear what Ed is saying, keep the things clean.
Yep.
Can we maybe share that vision with the potential suitors for these properties and maybe have that person, take a current snapshot of a location and then do like a rendering of what our vision is of what it would look like once we develop it so that they would see, hey, this is not going to be some fly by night. This is something I might want to be part of. And I can maybe get some help with the town helping me with taxes and things of that nature might be an enticement to show them what we're thinking, what it's going to look like when it's done, if we get what we're looking for. Can they do that for us? Can they give us some kind of a rendering of what it might look like once those types of buildings have been replaced and with the 4-foot stone on the bottom and showrooms, and kind of give these guys like a little food for thought of what we can have for them.
Yeah, and I'd be happy as well if it's something Brian's willing to do. I do have a small contract services budget. If we think it makes sense, we could always have Brian put something together to bring to the commission and say, this is our vision of what might be on the turnpike for contractors. That may be a tool we could look at as well.
Well, there's that, and there's also the fact that, obviously if these people are going to come and we have an architect here in town, they're going to develop a building, he might get business from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe he would see down the road and think to himself, well, you know what? I do something like this, and down the road, there's going to be opportunities for me to design buildings if we develop it this way, and maybe not, hit us as much, take it easy on us.
Yep.
Chris,
I think we're more worried about their trucks and their equipment.
Right. Well, you can put them in the
Where is that
rendering
gonna
yet and
be
put them in the
landed?
back.
Yeah.
Show them where you want it. Show them where you want it. Put the arborvitae's up, of course, close to the road to give a buffer. Show them what we're looking at so they understand. Even go out with a letter or shake their hands as commissioners and say, listen, you might think we're giving you trouble, but here's the deal. The more businesses we can bring in next to you and down this road, the more tax revenue, the easier it's going to be on you the next 10 years. So we're asking you to keep it neat. Keep the stuff off the street. Help work with us. Maybe we just have a conversation and say, look, we understand your first reaction is going to be to think we're just busting your stones, but see it from where we're looking at it.
Yeah, if somebody's going to put the money up to put a building up for their business, I would assume that they're going to try and keep it as neat as possible. It's just, some of the people that aren't putting the building up and just renting a building or buying an older building that don't really put the effort into keeping it like we'd like to see it.
I agree.
Yep.
Shame on them. Shame on them. Your place is neat as a pin. They come right into Berlin. It says, welcome to Berlin. They see a nice, neat, everything is always just right on your place when they come up the Chamberlain Highway. What a nice welcome mat. That's exactly how everybody should be thinking, bro.
Yep. So what I have on the screen here is the language we currently have in a couple of the industrial zones. And I added a little bit at the end there, which is fencing and landscaping, but we could definitely take a look at this. I can get this to everybody in a hard copy, and people can kind of take a look at it. It's really a first shot. Let's take a look at it, see what everybody thinks. But it can also be something much like the abatement stuff and the BTD zone, where we can look at it, see if we can find a way that it'll fit what we need and what we want, and hopefully will limit what we don't.
Chris, let me ask you a question as I sit here and think about this and clean contractors, and I'm thinking about Vinnie Brescia's place on Christian Lane. Is that the kind of look or arrangement? Because I think he has a lot of those kind of clean contractors in his area, and he has those kind of buildings. Is that something that you're envisioning seeing on the turnpike, what Vinnie has over there on Christian Lane? Because he has, a lot of different contractors that are in there.
On the 7 acres, yes, I could see that. On the 7 acres, I definitely could see that, because somebody could build a multi-tenant building and lease it out to contractors, much like Vinny does.
Like Vinny does.
Yeah, on the smaller parcels, probably not. Smaller parcels, I think, would likely be owner occupants. So it might be somebody who buys the forklift building, fixes up, and it has their company there, or the same thing with the garage or the other ones. But yeah, the larger piece, absolutely. I think definitely that could be what you see on the 7 acres, because 7 acres is going to be too big for most contractors. But if you had somebody who was a smart guy, an investor, he could build a bigger building, make up condos or rental units, and probably do pretty well.
Chris, is that garage on wetlands or is it all buildable land?
No, quite a bit of it is wetlands.
Yeah.
Probably all the commissioners should go look at the A1 home improvement on the turnpike. That's right near Middletown Road, Sunset. You could see how they laid it out with the fencing and then totally abused everything. And you'll notice how they parked all the different trucks and equipment all the way sometimes to the highway. and took out islands over the years. I think they're renting it out to all different contractors. So as long as the dollars come into that landowner, he don't care.
Exactly.
That's the worst thing that could happen to what we're proposing now. That's the prime example.
Yeah, and that I believe was a continuation of an existing use. Again, I'm not 100% certain, but you're right, Ed. That is the example that we want to stay away from.
Okay, can we table this till January for further discussion, Chris?
Yes. Let's see. Next one is gas stations. So we have had a property owner who has reached out to me to have a discussion with this commission. He would like to see if we can get rid of the 1,500-foot regulation. Take a step back. We have a regulation that says no gas station be within 1,500 feet of another gas station. He would like to get rid of that. And I wanted to kind of present to this commission to kind of get your thoughts.
Is it possible, Chris, that the other station would end up going out of business because of him?
I do not know that. Is it possible? Yes.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about the other guy too, you know? There's a reason why we have this 1,500-foot rule.
How far is he?
Not far.
I mean, he's 1,400 feet, you know, you're 100 feet, he's gonna, you know, but you know, if he's 600 feet, that's a different story.
Well, yeah, maybe 300 feet.
Oh, really?
How about 100 feet?
Oof. Oof, I understand direct competition, but that usually works better with supermarkets.
Yeah, I mean it really is a CVS Walgreens kind of thing.
Yeah.
Are we talking about the Berlin company then?
Yes.
Does that mean on the same side of the road?
It means 1,500 feet in any direction from property line to property line,
Oh,
as it's currently written.
You know, years back, we had that same restriction on restaurants that served alcohol and so forth. And it was a good reason that you brought that up about it was on the same side of the highway, because this was pertaining to the liquor license at the bowling alley, and that was within 1,500 feet of the restaurant across the street. So it supposedly wasn't allowed, but then the question came up, is that categorized as the crow flies or how someone would get there? Because if they had to go down the turnpike, turn around and come back and go to that second restaurant, it was more than 1,500 feet. Therefore, the bowling alley got a liquor license through maybe what we'll call a technicality. All right. So I don't even know if that's still on our books today. I think we did eliminate it because we wanted more restaurants and so forth, you know, possibly to be right near each other. But then again, are gas stations any different than any other competition? And is it on two different sides of the highway?
In this situation, no.
Right next to each other? At
Yes, sir.
100 feet?
100 feet.
Wow. Yeah, okay. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, no. I mean, and the idea is this would help to spur development on the rest of a large underutilized parcel. That's the reason he's coming in.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd ask the existing owner of the gas station, if we were to attempt to change this, could he not look at that as a, you know, if he had to work under that 1,500 square foot rule, could he not look at that as a threat to his business? Say, hey, I'm suing Berlin. What the hell? You can't do that to me.
You would think he's gonna, Dave.
I don't know who he is. I don't know if it's Irving in Canada or Gulf in, wherever they are. I don't know who they are. Or it's a small operator.
This is the piece by Blue Lobster over there we're talking about?
No.
Oh.
It's over by Home Depot.
Okay.
But I know that if there was a public hearing about this 15-foot reduction to 100 feet, and I was the existing gas station owner, I'd be there with my attorney fighting it. Guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
You would have a
Yeah.
valid, serious question as to why it was changed.
I guess the question is there a legal issue that we could get ourselves involved in, Chris, that we don't want?
I think if they change the language, that's the language that's changed. I mean, anybody has a right to appeal, which they can do. Legally, I don't know. I mean, Planning and Zoning Commission is the one that makes the rules. This would be a text amendment change, and they have the right to do that.
So we wouldn't be doing it specific to this one development. We'd be wiping it out totally.
Yeah, the language would be changed for, it would be changed throughout the town with the 1,500 feet.
Okay. So you could have 5 gas stations in a row if you wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, the other option is, let's say they change the language and it is, you add only on the Berlin Turnpike, again, just hypothetically. I haven't seen definitive language from them at this point, so I can't say for certain. I just know that the 1,500 feet does not work for the gentleman that's been talking to me.
You know, I'm wondering if the town put that in the zoning regulations back in the day, because that's how the Berlin Turnpike used to be. It's gas station after gas station after gas station. And
We couldn't stop them either if it went
we'd be
through,
going
right?
back to the same situation that we had years ago.
I'm sorry, what were you saying, Chris?
I think on what Keith just said, if and what Dave said, if they change this to be, to erase the 1,500 feet distance in between, basically, 5 gas stations can come in, and if there's a parcel of land next to each other, they can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's nothing we can do to stop them because it's within their right in the zone to put the gas station in.
If we completely get rid of the language, I would say you are correct.
Well, in order to accommodate this developer, we'd have to go down to 100 feet or eliminate it totally, which then allows 5 in a row if you want.
Yeah.
Right. And that kind of really undermines the current owner that's been a taxpayer in town all these years as well. When a new person comes in, it's literally doing exactly the same thing they're doing. Because obviously it's convenience that makes you stop going north or south on whichever gas station you tend to use. You put 4 in a row. Yeah. I didn't know that. Thanks for that history, Keith, because I did not know that was how it was. We got enough used car dealers. Maybe they all need their own gas station.
Well, this is really just a discussion. I am hoping we'll see some definitive language that will give us some clarity. Because if we do have an actual text amendment they're putting in, that'll give us something more solid to work on. But definitely I can express some concerns about the proliferation of gas stations if we completely get rid of it. And is there a middle ground? And again, I don't have an answer if there is or is not.
And then the other thing, Chris, that you may want to ask is corporate counsel, is there going to be a legal issue with the other guy on the other corner, if we ace this 1,500 square foot rule?
Okay.
Are we looking at so let's say we ace the 1,500 square foot rule, I'm thinking if I was the other guy, all right, we ace the 1,500 square foot rule. The guy comes in, puts his station in, takes 50% of the other guy's business, because you're right, Chris Coppola, he's going to be the first guy in line as you're coming down the turnpike. And then a year after that, he says, you know what, guys, you eliminated this $1,500 foot rule. I lost 50% of my business, which I can conceivably see happening if we do what we're talking about. and at that location, and I'm suing the town of Berlin for, whatever. So I would ask corporate, I'd be curious if how corporate counsel felt about us doing something like that. I'd be worried about that, because if the town of Berlin was my baby, I'd be worried about changing that 1,500-foot rule, because I'd be worried about the guy in the other corner coming back and suing me.
Right.
And their attorney, the first thing their attorney is going to do is say that the reason why my client went to this town was because there was a 1,500-foot distance requirement between, so that he particularly picked this spot so he would have his own territory.
And he just renovated the
And he
whole
just
thing,
bought it.
and he just spent all this money to renovate it.
You got it.
And he's,
That's
because you
an-
want to know something? If we owned that corner lot and that station, we'd be doing the exact same thing as
Yeah.
Chris Coppola just said.
That's why we're all saying what we're saying right now, because every one of us is thinking, man, if I owned it and this happened, I'd be pissed too.
So
Yeah,
Chris,
I'm starting to think on that same line too.
as a
You know,
point
it's a
of
line
reference,
of protection.
Chris Edge, as a point of reference for next meeting, maybe just go on Google Maps and could we see what the distance is between the Shell station and the Citgo station on Farmington Avenue, just as a point of reference, to see how much 1,500 feet is.
Citgo in the Shell, as in Atlantis and Simeone?
Atlantis, exactly. Yeah, just as a point of reference to see how far 1,500 feet is.
Is that 1,500 feet, Keith?
I don't know.
No, no way.
I don't think it is, bud.
I don't know.
There's no way that's 1,500.
I would say 500-600 feet tops.
That's what I would think too.
Yeah, because you just have Arby's in between them, right?
Arby's in the road. That's it.
Arby's in the street, yeah, and the road's what, 30 feet?
285 feet.
Really?
Yep.
Interesting.
Well, was the 1,500-foot rule in effect way back when? Because before Citgo was there, Getty Gas Station was there, because I worked there in 76 and 77. So maybe they were grandfathered, Keith,
Right.
because that was John Wagner's gas station.
Right. I was just curious how far away 1,500 feet is, and that's, that's
Well, I guess
286.
Yeah, well, I guess the question I'd ask is when the 1,500-foot rule went into effect, and were these guys grandfathered because they were already there, Keith?
Yeah, I was just wondering how far 1,500 feet is. That's all. As a reference point.
Yeah.
That's a quarter mile, right?
No, it's just about, yeah, it is a quarter.
I think a
Maybe we
little
could
over.
play
maybe.
with that number or
Yeah.
something. Who knows?
Just to give you some perspective, it is about 1,650 feet between the guy on the corner who just redid his station and Atlantis Food Bag up north. So essentially, the Berlin Turnpike, the Home Depot property is approximately
The whole Home
1,600
Depot
feet.
property.
So that's the distance between.
Okay.
And this came to be or is in front of us today because someone wants to put a gas station in between the two of them? Is that the way I understand it?
No,
No? Okay.
No.
No, it's worse than that. It's a lot worse than that. That would be a gift. That would be 800 square feet, 800 feet. We're looking at about 100.
Yeah, I'm almost thinking we shouldn't get involved in this. From one comment that the commissioner made, that if I came in to a town and invested my money because I was protected by a certain regulation, and then all of a sudden that regulation was erased, I'd be ticked.
By a lot.
That's gonna be the foundation of your case.
Yeah.
I can. If it goes anywhere, I can run it by corporation counsel, or I can run it by corporation counsel just to kind of get their thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we'll let this one sit. If we see something formal from an applicant, then we can discuss it further.
Okay, Chris, good
You know,
enough?
we had, oh man, year and a half ago, that old hotel that burned down over there on the turnpike across from where the Pine Loft is over there, Eddie's deal. And remember they wanted to come in and do another car dealership?
Yeah.
A few of the commissioners stepped up and said, listen, okay, great, it's another taxpayer, but at the same time, do we really need another car dealership right next to two other car dealerships? Is there a better use for it? Maybe sometimes we need to say, shy away from one thing that's the easy thing, and Ed has said this a few times, not wait so damn long for the purpose thing that we never get anything in there. But at the same time, I think I agreed, everybody agreed that there was no need to put a car dealership, another new car dealership, another car dealership next to it. This is kind of the same situation. And I agree, Eddie. I think this is a real hot stone right now that we're all going to get burned if we decide we're going to play toss with it.
Perfect. Thank you all.
Okay,
So,
Chris, let's move on to 6, right? You wanna move
Yep.
on to 6?
Holiday lighting contest for businesses kicked off. It's going to go until voting until January 2nd. At this point, see some folks doing it, just trying to get more folks involved. If you see somebody, if they have it decorated, just say thank you. We're going to be doing some prizes and kind of see where it goes. Opportunity to get people out and about to see the businesses. I know right now people probably not doing a lot of traveling, so hopefully go around town, visit some folks. Ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings. We did a ribbon cutting for MC Barber, which actually was a building right across from Eddie. MC Barber is a like an international award-winning barber. He opened a barber academy in what was left of the old restaurant, as well as a men's salon. So basically, haircuts, pedicures, manicures for men. So kind of a cool place. The last time I saw it was a burnt-out, fire-ravaged, water-ravaged shell. And if you get a chance, stop by. It's incredible what he's done.
Is that the place I was just talking about?
Exactly the same. Yes,
There you go, Eddie. Way to go, man. Hold off on that car dealership. We got something way better, bro.
that's right.
Good
Exactly.
job, bro. Good job.
Yep. Exactly. So that was a huge transformation. Today we did one at a place called Adaptive Therapeutic Massage. The last time I'd been in this place, I was having an egg sandwich. This place is where Berlin Fair used to be. She did an amazing job. It literally is set
Oh,
up
yeah.
for massages, and so did a ribbon cutting there today. Absolutely phenomenal. A woman who worked for other people, opened her own shop, and she's tickled
This is
pink.
legit, right?
This is legit. Yep, this is
Okay.
legit. Yep.
You don't do your laundry too and all that stuff.
No laundry, anything else. So very, very,
What was the last
very, very
name of
happy.
that, Chris?
What's that?
What was the last name?
Katie. Yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with it. I do not even remember what it is at this point.
Was it Mahoney?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yep, Katie Mahoney.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I
So
know her.
that went very well, which was good.
Yeah.
So we have tentative dates for our 2021 meetings. If we could take a quick look at that. You know what? I could probably share it on the screen here. I think the only date that we might want to consider is we currently have July 5th. So I don't know if we want to either move that one to another week. That way, in case we want a long weekend for the 4th, they're not immediately coming back for economic development, but I kind of put that out for discussion.
Okay.
I probably won't be around that weekend because after this year, if there's rodeos, my ass is gonna be there. That's a big weekend, 4th of July, the horses.
Got it.
Want to make it the 12th? July 12th?
That is what I'm thinking.
I'm good with that.
Alrighty, so Mr. Bosser proposes the 12th. And does that sound good to people?
Sure.
July? Yeah.
Perfect. Do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstained, motion passes. So those are the dates for 2021.
Perfect. Thank you all. We are going to be doing officers in January.
No, it's
I'm
February.
sorry, February. Sorry. Dropping
It's
stuff all over the
February.
place.
Yeah, that's
Sorry.
okay.
Dropping stuff all over the place.
So a couple things. I'll jump in on this one, Chris. Everyone should have received some forms in the mail from Kate Wall regarding ethics policy. And you're supposed to sign, I think it's Exhibit D, and you can return it. So it's sort of like a little shopkeeping here. Try to get those forms. Kate Wall sent them to everyone. So there's the ethics policy, and you're supposed to sign Exhibit D, put it in an envelope, and you can drop it in a drop box at Town Hall. So we got to get that back to Kate Wall if we can. And then
Can't find it. Can we get another one?
I guess so.
'Cause I'm gonna look for it, but I don't remember seeing it. But
Yeah.
if I find it, no problem. If I can't, can I get another copy of it
Yeah.
that I need to sign?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe, Chris, we can just email the ethics policy with that Exhibit D to everyone, and then you could just print it out,
Yeah, that's fine. I can do that.
and then, Kate
I'll
Wall.
make more work.
Yeah, we got to help Kate keep her, make it easy for Kate not to chase everyone down for these forms.
Did anyone go online last night for the ethics meeting?
I did not know.
No.
I tried and I gave up, and
I tried from the road going to a meeting, but I couldn't get in, so I thought it was my
yeah,
phone.
I went to one of those, maybe 3-4 years ago or so. At this point, I didn't see the reasoning because they sent us all the paperwork
Right.
of what we should understand and what our obligations.
Yeah. So that was just one thing, a little shop clean, paperwork cleaning here, make sure we try to get that in. But the other thing is, last year, after we have election of officers, which is chair, vice chair, and treasurer every year. Richard, you may not have gone through that yet with us, but every year we vote for officers on the Economic Development Commission, and that vote occurs in February on all the commissions. And we did check with Kate Wall on that. She's our town clerk. And after the votes last year, Chris Edge talked to the members of the commission, and typically we just talk about this in January, but Chris and I guess some other folks decided that we should start talking about officers in December so that once January hits in February, everyone is sort of understanding where people sit and where they lie and where officers want to be, if they want to continue in their current position or not. So that's why we have it on the agenda this year, because that's what was decided in the early part of 2020. So I guess we're not going to be voting tonight. We're going to be discussing it. I guess if we want to discuss tonight and in January, we'll be voting for chair, vice chair, and treasurer. And I think Peter is the treasurer right now, isn't he, Ed?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I think the way we should start this, and I'm open for any suggestions, is I think what we should just do is find out if the current officers of the Economic Development Commission are interested in continuing for 2021. I think that's number one, because why even talk about it if we don't even know where the officers stand? So I'll start out with myself as current chair, that I would like to continue as chair in 2021 if the commissioners would deem that I should be the chair and vote for me. So I'm willing to do it, and I want to do it again. So that's where I fall right now. So Mr. Egazarian, I guess we should ask you as vice chair what you would like to do for 2021. And then we should find out from Mr. Campanelli what he wants to do.
Okay, I would like to remain vice chair, but I also would like to know from the body if they would like me to do something different, or if I at times do not handle myself properly. So reason why I'm saying this is I would want nothing but harmony in this commission. Never really, and I'm going to use this word once, having politics have anything to do with our decisions. That's not our game here. We're here to promote the business aspect of this community, and that's it. If someone doesn't, or you feel as though I shouldn't be in that position, so be it. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, so then for now, you'd like to continue as vice chair if the commission would like you to continue and wants to vote for you, sir.
Yeah, or if they want to talk about what they would like me to do different, I'd like to hear that.
Okay, all right. And then we don't know, has anyone asked Mr. Campanelli if he wants to continue as treasurer?
Have not at
We
this
should
point.
know how much money he has in that treasury first.
We better ask Chris Edge that.
I don't know. This year it's find ways to get stuff in the community through gift cards, marketing, and otherwise.
Yeah.
So I guess, that's step one, because we're starting early to discuss this. And so I sort of open the floor to any other commissioners with respect to comments, concerns, questions that they have about officers going forward, discussions for January, and then the vote in February. So if anyone has any comments or wants to talk about this, we'll talk about it, certainly.
Does anyone else have an interest in the position? I think that'd be good to kind of put it out and say, I don't know if there is or not, but that's an option as well if anybody else has an interest in positions.
Okay, well, no other comments for this matter in December.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may,
Yes, sir.
and we could possibly still open this up for discussions in January again. Would that be all right?
Yeah, well,
If
the plan is to keep it on the agenda for January also.
yeah, it will allow everybody to mull this over, and if they come up with something they want to talk about, and we could discuss it then also.
Sure.
I'm good.
Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. Now, that was the plan, to keep it on in January also. So if there's no other discussion on officers, and I'm not hearing any, then we'll move on to the third bullet. Chris, maybe you can just go over the Secretary of the State issue there. And
Sure. Our town clerk, Kate Wall, is working with Secretary of State's office. They're trying to kind of wrap their arms around business getting up and starting, and there's been a lot of information. And so Kate was looking to get a couple people who might be interested in talking to, I believe it was a consultant they're working with right now to streamline the process. So if somebody was interested in talking, could be an entrepreneur, could be somebody who's not owning a business, just to kind of talk with them and either their experience or how they think things might run smoother.
What are they talking about again? I'm sorry, I must have missed up front. I don't understand.
Sure, that's okay. Basically, what they're looking to is, right now, Secretary of State, I believe, does LLCs, and town clerks do trade names like sole proprietors. So they're trying to get it into one more cohesive central database between the town and Secretary of State's office. And so they're trying to talk to folks who are usually either entrepreneurs or small business owners to assist them with figuring out what's good, what's bad, and maybe what they would like to see.
I mean, does it really matter to a small business owner whether they go to the town to file one type of entity or go to the state for another?
I don't think it's a big difference from a small business perspective, but if it's all done in one place and it makes it easier, it would be good to get it. Because right now, I think if you're looking for information, you got to go to the state, you got to go to the town clerk's office. It becomes a little challenging.
Well, I think we give them both a set of paperwork, and whichever one finishes faster, that's the one that gets the contract. It's pretty straightforward because we can't even get the goddamn state to cut the lawn at the end of Worthington Ridge.
True.
And they got all new machines with 72-inch cuts, but apparently they can't get out of second gear. Heath, we're gonna have to turn this one over to you, buddy. We're gonna have to let you have this one and go at them.
All right.
Well, I guess what it is part of it is public relations too. The state wants to appear to be reaching out to communities to become more business friendly and streamline this process. What happens?
Lower
We
our
shall,
taxes.
yeah, we shall see
Stop
what
giving
happens.
away the store every year.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Giving
so
paperwork at the state level isn't gonna make somebody want to come here.
no, I
They're leaving
know.
in droves.
Yeah, I know.
With all the stuff they could be doing, this is a pretty small way to try and make things easier.
Yeah,
Well, they are working on it. So what are we going to do? Let them try. You know, they asked
Yeah, let them give it a
for
try.
they asked for town clerk's involvement and feedback, and they're going to get some. So, okay, that takes care of item 7, and then I guess I'll just item 8 is adjournment. But is there anything else that commissioners want to chit chat about? Open floor for a moment. If you have another issue, otherwise, we're ready to adjourn and roll out.
If anybody after the January meeting during January wants to get together for a cocktail or anything like that and doesn't feel comfortable in a restaurant, I'll offer up the barn. It's almost 5,000 feet. We can heat it. Welcome to come over, have a cocktail, get some appetizers, things of that nature. You want to do something for the holiday.
Okay, very good.
Sounds nice. Thank you.
Can we come over now?
Come on, whenever you want, man. Believe me. No problem. No problem.
Sounds good, Chris.
Thank
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 you.
you, Chris.
Okay, I guess we'll look for a motion adjourn somewhere out there, folks.
I'll make a motion. We adjourn. I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless.
You guys.
All right,
Happy
second,
holidays.
second somewhere.
well.
We got a
I'll second
second.
it. I'll
Chris
second
Coppola,
it.
second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, abstain. Merry Christmas, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Night, guys. Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Merry Christmas. Thank you all.
Yeah.